Hey everybody, welcome back to the Coptic Cave. We're on episode 2, and this episode has been a long time coming. Like, I think you and we initially talked about this maybe like a month and a half ago, maybe even 2 months ago. It's been like that long.
Yeah,
Um,
yep. We had a really great conversation when we were talking about this
mhm.
episode.
And it's just, I'm not gonna lie, I procrastinate a lot. So
Okay. Okay, I'm
I
glad we
got,
can finally do it.
yeah. But anyway, um, I have with me somebody who is quite literally on ground zero of where we see a lot of anti-Semitism happening. She is an actress from New York. She has her own pretty incredible story. I mean, just the day-to-day that she lives and that she sees other people live in her space, in her community. Well, there's nobody better to explain it than Jenny herself. Jenny, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, hi guys. I'm Jenny.Anne Hochberg. I'm an actor and I've been in New York for 12 years now. And when October 7th happened, I just became a full Jewish activist. I was pretty distant from my Judaism before October 7th, and then I just fully was like, I'm here and I'm loud and I'm proud and I'm not going anywhere. And I started seeing a very big shift in my industry, and I'm still seeing a shift of like I didn't realize how much anti-Semitism existed in my industry because I know that my industry, which is film, TV, and theater, um, well, mostly film and TV was started by Jews, and so it's just really funny that we I don't control Hollywood in any way, but it's just funny to see like how much anti-Semitism was lying under the surface and I had no clue about it. And so to kind of deal with that while I'm trying to be very outspoken as a Jew and also support the Nova survivors and the hostages and continue speaking out for Holocaust survivors, it's a really interesting time, I'll say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, just to be in the industry that you're in itself, that's quite a
Yeah.
challenge as it is already. Just, but then you deal with the anti-Semitism on top of it. And
Yeah.
I mean, not last month, but about a month and a half ago, I had this girl Naomi here who I interviewed, and she's also from New York. And she
Mm.
said that, like, you know, she said something to me that at the time I thought was like quite a powerful statement, and it later turned out to be like more and more true. She said she felt like the golden age for Jews in America was like over.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a
Really?
doubt,
You agree too?
100%. I mean, I was
Wow.
just at a book club talking about anti-Semitism on the left right now because I am a left Democrat, but it's very I think we were all people who just felt very safe in our bubbles as Jews. Like I had three Jewish friends before October 7th, and now all my friends are mostly Jews, or at least if they're non-Jew, they at least have to very much support the Jews to be in my life. Um, I remember watching A Small Light on Disney Plus, which is about the Meat family, and my mom just had this gut feeling for us to watch it. We watched it a week before October 7th, and we watched about like her perspective of hiding the Frank family. And I thought, well, that's never going to happen again. Like if it does, like, I mean, I know my non-Jewish friends would hide me. And yet the ones, like the friends I thought would hide me were the same friends who never once reached out post October 7th. And I would post continuously on my Instagram story or post saying, reach out to your friends that are hurting. Your Jewish friends are hurting. And I even said, reach out to your friends who are Palestinian. Reach out to them. Like, reach out to both people that are hurting. I wasn't just like, oh, only reach out to Jews. But I was saying, like, those of you who have been know me for so long and you have been there for me, why are you so silent? And they would watch everything I would post and not say a word. And some have reached out since then, like 2 years later, which I appreciate, but some have just been like nothing. They don't touch it. They don't want to go near it. They don't want to say, hey, just want to tell you I support you as a non-Jew.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, that's gotta put things into perspective for you though.
Yeah,
Because I'm
it's
assuming some of these people who, haven't like reached out to you at all, some of them you might have known for like years.
yeah, I mean some I knew like right before October 7th, some I knew for years. And I had a birthday party, it was July 2023 because my birthday's in July. And I think maybe literally two of the friends I invited do I still speak to. And I probably like 30 people at this party. And it's either people who
Wow.
I saw post very anti-Semitic things and I was like, wow, I can't be friends with you, or they just backed away and unfollowed me. And I'm like, that's so sad that you've known me for years and you unfollowed me because I played a Nova Survivor in the Soft Broadway show October 7th.
Hmm.
And I said it just, I was like, because I posted a photo with a Nova Survivor, you unfollowed me because of that. That's really sad. And also, I live right by Columbia, so I see things on poles by me,
Oh.
all the time. I saw some really horrible things recently, and so not only do I have to see things online that my friends share of like really anti-Semitic things, but I have to walk outside my door and see things put on poles, and or like people will paint over Jewish stars. Like it has nothing even to do with me. The war in Gaza right now, it could be literally leaving my front door and I'll see a Jewish star covered up. They'll just spray paint it over. I'm like, wow, you're not like. It's just so. It's very like. I think the golden age of feeling safe as a Jew is
In
is
New
not here.
York, of all places, that's the
Yeah,
thing. It's in New York. This isn't like happening in, Tulsa,
yeah.
Oklahoma, or, you know,
No,
in,
no, it's right here.
yeah.
And the most, I'm on the Upper West Side, which is the most Jewish area also. And so that was very jarring at first when all this started happening. I'm like, this is like the most Jewish area. Like, why are people doing this? It's
Hmm.
like the biggest Jewish area in New York City. And again, like my industry has just been so alarming. And I see sometimes comments on certain people's posts where they'll be like, so many like people are speaking out for the Jews. I'm like, who? Who in Hollywood? Because there's not many. I'm like Deborah Messing and Michael Rappaport. Like we don't have a lot of people speaking out for us right now. So it's been wild lately.
Yeah, no, it's not a popular move.
No,
Trust me, they let me know every day.
yeah.
Um, so with all this going on, like I didn't know that you were in like the most Jewish area, right?
Oh, very
So
popular, very Jewish populated.
like what goes on in your mind? Like what's, when you see stuff like that?
I think it was so at first. Well, I'll tell you, like when I would see hostage posters being torn down, like the Bibas, it would break my heart to think this is a photo of a baby. Like, how can you do this to like a picture of a baby? But then you
Hmm.
kind of become numb to it after a while. And like, I even there's stickers for the Druze community, and if God forbid it's anything but what's going on in the Middle East, it gets taken down. And the Druze are not Jewish people, so it's a little alarming. And also, I always think like my cousin was a Holocaust survivor, and his entire family didn't survive but him. And I think
Oh.
he didn't survive that for us to be going through this again. And so every time I see something anti-Semitic, I'm like, as long as I live, like I will fight this as much as I can. So yeah,
Well, that's actually a good way to follow into what I want to ask you.
yeah.
You brought up um, just the fact that your cousin is a Holocaust survivor, and similar to like, what we see, like what we witnessed in the past, because there was a lot of propaganda that was used back then to,
Yeah.
that was used against the Jews, but today we see a lot of the same propaganda again. What do you think makes it so easy for people to get like caught up in anti-Semitic propaganda?
I attended the Holocaust Museum and also the Anne Frank exhibit at the Jewish Heritage Museum, I believe. I might be getting the museums crossed, but I went to both recently. And what was so alarming to me was how fast the propaganda worked in Nazi Germany, how quickly it rose against the Jews. And that was like, wow, like how similar I see things on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube. Or like a friend of mine will post, or not a friend, because I would not call them a friend, but someone will post something anti-Semitic, literally saying that the Jews control politics, which is crazy to me. Because if I did things, would be very different right now. Um, and it's just that I think people just want partially people forget that the Jews are the smallest minority in the world. We're like 0.2% of the world's population. They want a scapegoat to blame for their problems. Um, I think it's also just it's so easy to fall into propaganda. If you're being seeing the same thing again and again and again, you're going to start to believe it after a while. You're going
Hmm.
to be like, what? Would Jews be doing this? Oh my God, that's so horrible. And if you start to see things from sources that you trust or people you trust, and you maybe you see certain videos or photos, but you don't see the whole video or see the whole context behind a picture, for instance, if this makes sense, you just start to think, well, this is obviously fact, so I'm going to believe it. And now I have and maybe there was some anti-Semitism underlining under the surface that people were always iffy with the Jews that I had no clue of. and now it's just come to the surface fully. So I think people just want someone to blame their problems on, and then they just propaganda is so easy to fall for.
I think what's telling about your story is that, like I said, this is happening in New York, where it's pretty well known for being sort of like, for lack of better words, a Jewish Mecca in the United
Yeah,
States.
yeah.
Um, so it's one thing where if you're somewhere else, like let's say you're in like Richmond, Virginia, okay, not exactly the same thing, and you're feeling it there, right? But now it's in New York, and like it's almost like whatever bubble that existed no longer exists. Like that
Yep.
space where, you thought maybe like, okay, could maybe happen somewhere else, but not here. I've noticed that more and more people in New York are considering like leaving, going south.
Oh wow, I hadn't heard that. I think some Jews are like, well, I've been here for so long, I don't want to leave. And when anti-Semitism was getting worse this year, I started thinking like I'm hearing people want to leave, and I'm like, well, dude, like I wanted to live here since I was 14. Why should I leave because of these people? But I know the sad thing is I know it's not going to get better. So Sammy Segman is a honorary grandfather of mine. He's a very famous Holocaust survivor,
Mhm.
and I like we've done some videos together. And I had asked him at one point, like, do you have any words of advice for the Jewish community? Any words of hope? And he has basically told me he's like, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, and it has to hit such like a pendulum swing that the world will finally be like, okay, the Jews have suffered enough. He says, I don't think another Holocaust could happen, but I do think it's going to keep getting worse. And I do too. And but this is I guess a little moment of hope for anyone who needs this. I feel like although it's so hard and it's challenging, it's really I think it's disappointing to see this in our own community in moments as Jews. But I also feel like every time something happens, the Jewish community doesn't back down. We get stronger and we become stronger. So we're not going anywhere. So I mean that's something like it's gonna get worse, but also we're not going anywhere.
Can you tell us more about, sorry, what was the name again?
Sammy, Sammy
Sammy. Can
segment
you
is I
tell us more about Sammy? Because I remember,
uh,
I remember some of the stuff that you'd shared about him. His story looked
yeah.
really, really interesting.
Yeah, I saw him do a couple of videos a year ago, and then we met at a Holocaust documentary screening, and it was so powerful. And we just connected, and he was like, "Come to my apartment, and I can show you like in my entire life things from when he survived the Holocaust, things from different parts of his life, different family members." And so my mom and I went, and we just bonded. And all my remaining grandparents are no longer alive, which is always hard, and I miss them every day. And he had asked me after, like, we went out for dinner one time. We had like a Sunday dinner, which is side note, something I used to do with one of my grandmothers, so it meant a lot to do that with him. And he's like, do you have a grandfather? And I said, no, all my grandparents are no longer alive. And he says, well, you have one now. And so now, and he like came to my birthday, and he actually did a blessing for me because it's apparently, he had said, when a Holocaust survivor blesses somebody, it's more powerful than a rabbi. And so he
Mhm.
had blessed me into this whole thing in front of my friends. It was really beautiful. But his story is like he went through Nazi Germany, through the concentration camps when he was very young. They did experiments on him at age 2. He doesn't remember anything, but he's in chronic pain since it happened. And this is someone who lives below the poverty line. He's very open about that. He, I mean, he got to stay with his family, his parents, which he's very lucky to do that, but he doesn't take money for anything that he does. He just wants to speak out because it's important that the last generation of Holocaust survivors are remembered.
Is
I'm very lucky.
there
Yeah, I'm very lucky
is,
to know him.
is there a way that we can sort of like get him to take stuff?
I know. I don't think
Are there any ways to like
like,
work around that?
no. I was like, you could be charging money for this. You could be like, you could take some money because some organizations do have a speaker's fee. You could be doing that. He goes, no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. I'm doing that. He always turns it down. He's like, nope, I turn it down. That's not why I'm doing this. So, which I think
Okay.
is really nice. People in
Yeah.
the Jewish influencing world charge a lot of money to speak, and they're not people who have maybe survived Nova or the Holocaust. They're just people who started doing this post October 7th.
All right. All right. Well, speaking of Nova survivors,
Yes.
you play one
Yeah.
in a play, and
Yeah.
that's got to be something unique to its own, given the an atmosphere. I mean, just because, well, you know, sort of like my background was that I used to be, you know, an Israel hater, anti-Semitic, you know, I was
Yeah.
that type of person who like, um, I personally did not go to many protests, but like
Yeah.
if we knew that there would be a play where
Mm.
you would be playing like a, you know, Nova Survivor. Oh,
Yeah.
like I would have seen at least three, four posts where it said like protest here, this and this,
Oh yeah. Oh
Zionist
yeah.
propaganda.
Yeah.
Like, just give us the story behind that because that to me is really fascinating.
Well,
If
your
there's
voice,
anything like that.
yeah, I want to just say like your voice matters so much because there's not a lot of people like you that speak out. So when I do meet someone that is not Jewish, that has become you. And I have another very close friend who's not Jewish, and he's exactly the same way, where he was on that side, and then he just started to see reality and read books, and he's like fully he's like more knowledgeable than I am about half these things. So I did this off-Broadway show last year called October 7th, where I played a Nova survivor. I hadn't done theater in a bit. I'd mostly done TV, film, a lot of TV. And when I saw it, I was like, without a doubt, like I would have submitted to play a tree in this thing. I would have played any part because I was such an activist for the hostages and Nova survivors. It was so important to me. And that's what I put in my note to casting. And then the day before, I got a direct offer, and we started rehearsals immediately, which is all that's very rare. Normally, you like audition, you have multiple callbacks for theater, and then you maybe you'll book it. And so to get a direct offer, and I was terrified at first because again, hadn't done theater in a while, but I just kept thinking like this is for her, whoever I'm playing. I knew nothing about her. And the producer surprised her with me opening night. The girl who I played, it was a verbatim play, so it was 14 survivors of the Kibbutz and Nova Festival, and I played one of the Nova Festival survivors, Shani DT, who is actually now has become one of my best friends. We just bonded immediately, and uh, like a really side story, when I was preparing to play her, because my job as an actor is to make a full story, and literally there was nothing online. The only Shani I could find was Shani Luke, and they had one picture of Shani DT, who I played. And I made up this whole backstory. And when she had come to my apartment when she was visiting in New York, a second time, she came by and I showed her like the backstory I made. And she says everything was correct in it except two things. Like that's how in sync we were.
Wow.
We were very like in sync,
Wow.
similar. We even have our similar nose shape, like personality wise, we're similar. And I was like praying that whoever, like whenever I meet her, like let her be nice. Because I started following her on Instagram, but I didn't tell her I was playing her. And she didn't know who I was. And then she apparently did. And we just bonded immediately. And she's the most kindest person. And so her story at Nova, if I can share, if that's all right with you.
Of course. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So she went to Nova with four of her friends, and when everything started happening and her and her friends tried to get into a car to get out, the car, of course, was stopped by all the terrorists. So then they had to start running. They ran through multiple hills, and then she saw multiple bodies dead around her. She is a combat medic, and she felt this need to protect people. But it was like you either die or you try to save somebody. Oh, sorry, you either save someone dying or you just try to protect yourself. And then she finds a thorn bush, and she hid in this thorn bush for 6 hours, and she still has scars from the thorns. I mean, they were huge. They were probably like the size of my finger, which I normally show people pictures of it when I'm at events, just so they can see like how real this is. Like she still has a scar on her butt, which is
Oh,
part of our
wow.
play we talked about. And then at one point she's saying the Shema, and she's the reason I say the Shema every day. And this bird came and landed right by her hand, and she was like also she felt this like grandfather presence around her, and her grandfather had passed away October 7th, 2016. She found out later that night when she got home. And then eventually she got out from Nova, two safe cars. She got through one safe car. The first safe car driver, his name was Leon. He went out 2 days looking to rescue people. I always tell a story because it's just as important. Went 2 days looking to rescue people, no weapon on him. He was with his son. And they saw a body on the side of the road. They didn't know if it was a terrorist or someone who needed rescuing. And it was a terrorist who shot them. He killed Leon, and then his son survived, but he was shot multiple times. And then she went through another safe car. And then a week later, she re-enlisted in the Army into becoming a combat medic because she just had such survivor's guilt. And she is just an incredible person who is now engaged. And I'm like one of like 9 or 10 people she told that she got engaged. And I promised her and her mom I would always tell her story, and I always tell, whether I'm on stage or an event, it will always continue to be told, so that way she's never forgotten.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome. I was
yeah,
actually going to ask too, like, because we're such in a information war, and there's a lot of disinformation, purposeful disinformation against, our side of things. And I was I was going to ask, like, how often do you use these sort of like, because this is, I don't know a lot of people that have like that direct of a connection to somebody who was both, a survivor of the Holocaust and,
yeah,
a Nova survivor as well as plays one,
yeah.
on stage. So, I mean, it must feel unique for you then to combat all the anti-Semitism that you see online, all the misinformation. Do you ever find yourself just sort of like, you know what, not today, sort of like swallow your pride and, you know, just ignore it? Or like, how often do you avoid like these conversations?
If I can have a conversation with someone and they are willing to actually listen and learn, like I post about fighting anti-Semitism, about I want to give Nova survivors, hostages, like Holocaust survivors, a voice and support Jewish organizations and businesses. That's why I got into content creating. And I like, if I can have a conversation with some woman, I have to back up what I say. Like if I'm going to post online, I'm not going to not have a conversation. And sometimes the conversations have been really great. And like someone who's, especially who's middle of the road and they're like, I want to learn more, and I can show videos and photos and talk about facts and actually share things like what Shani went through and show that there's like a heart behind what these people survived. I mean, it's, but then there's some times where people are just so far gone that I'm like, and they're just saying propaganda talking points that I'm like, everyone says, and if you prove them wrong in any way, then they kind of, their brain malfunctions a little bit and they go, but that's not true. No, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're stupid. That's not right. No, no, and that happens a lot. So some days it's easy, and some days I can be like, I can't get into this.
Yeah.
Like my mental health, like even certain videos online, if I see something, I can be like, okay, I can handle watching this today. And some days I'm like, I need to be happy as a person. I need to take care of my mental health because this is not something I talk about often, but right after October 7th, it affected me so much knowing what these women who were taken hostage might have been gone through sexually, that I actually was getting so stressed that it caused me to have blurred vision because I was so stressed. I was so angry. Me and my friends were constantly like in this like trauma dumping of videos of Nova and the kibbutzim. And I actually, the same day I was like starting to get a little blurred vision, I was walking outside and I see this golden retriever playing outside of a Home Depot where I was visiting my mom, and I sprained my ankle because I was just such in a bad, honestly, so distracted by everything that had been happening. So I have to make sure that like I take care of my mental health with all this because it's so much, like even playing a Nova survivor, my acting coach when I got it, he said to me the first thing was you have to protect your mental health. You have to separate yourself from her. You have to find the differences, which is very hard because as actors, we are supposed to connect and really bring our heart to who we play. My coach always says the heart gets the part. And so I was like, I don't know how to play someone that's not me. He says, you have to find differences between you. So after the show, at the very end, um, basically we all have a closing monologue of where we are now because none of us interact. It was basically 14 stories. None of us have any lines that go into each other. Some people got to have someone to help them with, if they have a friend that died at Nova, the person they were portraying, they could talk to that person. But for me, I'm just talking to the audience the entire time, and no one's talking back to me except maybe one or two people yell at me about something. And so at the end, we all come out, we all say where we are now, and then we sit and we wait for the next person to come out, and we just sit and we process everything. And behind in the back wall of our theater, we had a whole wall of all the hostages. And so it kind of, because of my coach helping me protect my mental health and how to prepare that, I would sit there and I would say the Shema to every single hostage's picture and saying, you're not forgotten, you're not forgotten, you're not forgotten. And for me, I think because I was so careful about making sure I was mentally okay during the show, because some people were really not in my cast. It was a very, very hard show because we also had basically 300 sound cues and 400, like 220 light cues or something every day. And you hear bombs, you hear explosions, and you're basically living through this every day as this person in the moment. And it's very hard. But for me, because I was able to separate and focus on, okay, the hostages Focus only on them right now and only on them, and just, you're no longer her. You are just yourself praying for these people be in this back wall. And that, I think, is why it's also helped me with my mental health with all this stuff too. If any of that makes sense.
No, it absolutely makes sense because, I have to, like, I can't watch certain things. All right, like during the Iran-Israel war, like the image of like, missiles hitting like Israel and everything, that was like it was
Yeah.
already tough because I was, checking up on friends every night and every morning because of the time difference.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so, like when you see something like that, and I would try my hardest to not watch that. It makes you think,
Yeah.
which one of my friends did that strike closest to?
Yep. Yep.
Like it's
Yep.
a crazy thought to feel,
Yeah.
especially like, you know, being this side of things. It was wild. Um,
Yeah. My
just
friends over there, I would be freaking out every day, and then after a while, I'd be like, okay, I have to trust they're going to be okay. And one of my friends got three different places they stayed at every time a rocket hit them. The first place was their apartment that they were, thank God, not there at the time, but the apartment was destroyed. Their second time they
oh
were staying somewhere, they didn't have a safe room. They were hiding in a stairwell. Rocket went through there. And the third time they were staying in the old city in Jerusalem, and the safe room was locked, so they couldn't get inside. And they're seeing rockets go overhead. And I'm freaking out, like, oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay? And they're like, yeah, we're just dancing and singing. Like, we're fine.
yeah, that's the crazy part. Is like we're freaking out here more than they are. Like, they
Yeah,
just
like we're fine, we're chilling. But yeah, I think I just learned, like, some of my friends in the beginning, I would send all these videos to, and I would say, oh my God, can you believe this happened? Now this happened. Now this thing's happening. Can you believe this thing happened at Nova? And after a while, they're like, hey, listen, like, I kind of need a break from it because my mental health can't handle it.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so I think it's just I think you become numb to it, like I said, with the Beavis pictures or like the things I see on polls. Now, sometimes it's so triggering that I'm like, you're tearing down like a hostage poster, but you're putting up a picture of a terrorist celebrating them, like a literal actual terrorist that has been proven as a terrorist. And that can trigger me, but sometimes I just become numb to it. And, or you just have to like be like, okay, I can't look at certain things today.
I mean, for that, it took you a while to get to that point,
A
I'm
while.
sure. And this has been going on for, I mean, it's close to 2 years now. It's,
Yeah.
we're approaching 2 years on this.
A
And
while.
for you, what was it like just in the beginning? Because it took, I mean, I can't imagine, just where you're at mentally with nearly 2 years of this in your mind. But when it started out, what went through your mind? Like, what was the atmosphere like for you?
Um, I remember watching CNN at 3 a.m. in the morning with my mom and seeing rockets hit, and she's like, "Oh, they're getting attacked." And I said, "Well, they're always getting attacked. So what's different between this and normal times?" And then waking up the next day and seeing, I was in just, my body went numb. I didn't quite understand what was happening, and then turning on CNN and seeing the video footage of Nova being replayed over and over again, and then seeing so fast people in my industry who so SAG went on strike just months, just really close to this around this time. The SAG strike, which is for us to get a better deal, it was involving AI, it was a whole thing, and people I was on the strike lines with, like who I felt like I bonded with, were sharing things who were Jews that were so anti-Semitic that were justifying what happened to these people that just went to dance. These, like, basically they're like hippies that went to dance. It was like as if Woodstock got attacked. And I remember being so in shock by what's happening. I can't process what's happening. I don't understand how this could happen to anybody. And then to see people I know so fast just within one day already like posting about going to protests in Times Square, when this people are still like hiding in bushes at
Hmm.
Nova while they're posting these things. And that was, I think, alarming. And then I got really worried. I posted a couple videos about how, like, police have sympathy for these people and what they went through. And Guy Natif, who's an Israeli director, he shared one of my videos, and then I started getting death threats right away, and I got very scared. So I also got scared, am I going to get blacklisted in my industry for even sharing these things, which I learned no. I actually got more support than I expected from like higher industry professionals, not actors. Um, but I remember one video that no one talks about ever, but I remember seeing this video. You hear this child watching her parents lives being taken in front of her, essentially. and then you hear her screaming and running and then being shot and no longer alive, being unalived. And no one talks about that, but that's a video that relives in my head over and over again. And I started breaking down crying. I cried multiple days, like right around October 7th, and then started becoming numb to it. And then certain things will come up again where it's like, wow, how could this happen? Or like new footage or new stories of Nova or the hostages come out recently. And it's like, oh my God, it's just re-triggering. It's like, feeling like we can never fully heal from the trauma.
What do you think it, because like for me to hear that, like I'll be honest, Jenny, like I was not prepared for like how that was going to start off. Like that you had, Jewish friends that had stood in like in solidarity with you protesting trying to get a better deal for yourself. You had Jewish friends like sharing stuff that was
Yeah.
like, because for me, I'm Egyptian. I grew up in the Arab Muslim community, at least for like the second part of my life. So I can understand, I don't justify, but I can understand like why for them they've been like, they've been taught this since birth,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
I can understand how they see that and they're like, in that mindset. But for me, it is still tough for me to understand that, like what you just shared with me right there. It's so
Yeah.
hard for me to like grasp that because there is no like my friends didn't have a choice, right? Like
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
friends really didn't have a choice. Most of them, especially those with like parents that like, they were from there and that's all they've known. But for
Yeah.
your friends, like they grew up here, they didn't like, they weren't subjected to that. Like I just don't get it.
Yeah.
What do you think that is?
I think it's guilt that it's like the far left guilt of, wow, we want to help underprivileged or communities that have been silenced for so long, and so they accumulate that, or they like, I guess, connect that to what happened that day, but not for the victims of October 7th. They connect it to the people who did these acts to them. They're like, well, they've been oppressed for so long, and I just think that they want to be like human rights warriors, yet they don't speak up for the people who Jason Isaacson, I think his name is. He's a very famous actor. I'm probably getting his name wrong, but he's been in Harry Potter, White Lotus, and he wears a yellow hostage pin. He's very few in Hollywood that do now. And when he was asked, I remember reading in a press release somewhere, he said, everyone's speaking out for the other side, but so few are speaking out for the hostages, and we can't let them be forgotten. And I think so many people on that day were like, well, we have to support human rights, so we're going to fight for that. And they didn't realize human rights also involves their own people. And you can say, like, everyone has the right to exist, but you also should own that people are also hurting that in your own community, too.
Of course. And like I don't want to be the type of person that like, I don't want to kill somebody's humanity. Like I don't want to like discourage somebody from being empathetic and compassionate. I think that's an important human emotion to have. I think partially that's what keeps you human. But I also wonder, like your friends, were they aware that like, a lot of the people who like, for instance, the ones at the kibbutz, like they were the most idyllic, peace-loving Israelis.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
crazy to me is that you could like really sort of
Yep.
like emotionally cut yourself off from that fact. Like what like do they know that?
No, I mean, I don't know. I think even if they did I mean, I didn't realize how far gone people were just
Hmm.
that moment. I didn't even know half of this stuff. Like, I knew a lot about kibbutzim, and my mom lived in one for a few years when she was there, but like, I didn't know a lot about it. So I didn't know a lot about any of this, but I don't think they're aware of it. I just think they were like, fight for human rights, and um, I'm also Ukrainian and
Hmm.
I'm also Russian, but I would always think like, imagine like Ukraine got attacked, and imagine if Ukraine goes to defend itself, and the world's like, no, how dare you? And that hadn't
Yeah,
even happened yet, by the way. That I mean, October 7th, and then like maybe I think a month, then the war started, really.
the
But
ground invasion. Yeah.
yeah, they hadn't even gone in yet. So I always think of like Ukraine. I was talking to a couple of friends of mine who are in the same mindset of me about this, being like, imagine if Ukraine went to defend itself, and there's I think 250,000 Ukrainian children that have gone missing that are still they still don't know what has happened to these children, but no one's fighting for them. And imagine if like Ukraine was fighting and everyone was on Ukraine's side in the world, but everyone was like, no, you're bad. Sorry, what happened to you was deserved. Russia has
Hmm.
been oppressed for so long.
Yeah.
I always think of that, and I know I don't think these people were educated. I don't think they're willing to be educated now either. I don't talk to them. The moment I saw that stuff, I was like, bye, you're out of my life. I can't.
So you think this was more of sort of like a knee-jerk response, maybe for lack of better words, knee-jerk response to like what they think is like the popular thing to support?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
see.
Or that like they think. I mean, some of my friends think that these people think that they're doing the right thing, but I also think if there's enough proof out there that you can support both sides, that both people deserve to exist peacefully, and that you can feel bad for people and what they went through October 7th, then why shouldn't you?
Hmm.
And yeah, I think it's that I think people mean well, but I also think it's the popular thing to do, unfortunately. But I've always supported the underdog my whole life, so that's it feels very fitting to me. I was bullied hardly growing up, and that's where all this like passion and like fighting comes from to support people who don't have a voice, is because I feel like I know what it's like to be silenced when you're bullied. And so I was never popular in high school. I thought, well, I'm not going to worry about being popular now either.
If
Yeah,
if it was a popularity contest,
yeah.
we wouldn't be doing this.
No,
This
no,
is
no, I would not. I'd be
this is
doing other things time in my life if I
yeah.
was about to be popular. Like even when I got October 7th, I had something in like something went off in my brain like, will I get blacklisted for doing this play? And I thought, you know what? I've not worked before. So if I don't work because I do this show, then too bad. And that didn't happen at all. The far actually the like I had a way better reaction than that in my industry, but at least with people who can decide if I get an audition, not actors, but I was worried about that. Even when I post stuff now, I think when someone follows me who's my industry, I'm like, well, you're going to see what I'm about, but if you don't like that I'm so openly Jewish, then why would I want to work with you?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm gonna drink water.
Oh, good. I'm going to drink water. Getting hot. I'm getting heated, and so like I'm getting hot at the same time. Nice bottle.
Thank you. So then, question:
Yeah.
what, given everything that we've talked about today, right?
Hmm.
What gives you hope today?
Um, that we're not going anywhere without a doubt. Where existed. There's I want to find this story if I can. This has to do with. I was just um see if I can find it really quickly. Um, Give me 1 second. I want to find this thing. Yeah, it's called the. I'm gonna say it wrong probably, but it's the Masada, and basically this mountain of like these Jews escaped Jerusalem many centuries ago, and they went to the Masada mountain where then the Romans came and they tried to attack them, and a lot of Jews, thousands of Jews supposedly took their life. So that way the Romans did not have control, couldn't put them to sleep, but it couldn't kill them. And the thought of that, like thousands of years ago, we have been pushed from our ancestral homeland, we have been hunted down, and thousands of people were kidnapped or killed, but we're still here. And that gives me hope that no matter what, like we're not going to go anywhere.
Hmm.
And that hopefully eventually, like the truth will come out about what's real and what's not involving the Jewish community. But we're here, and that every time hatred comes our way, we become stronger more than ever. And someone made a good point to me that people think that Jews control Hollywood, which we do not. But we started Hollywood because no other industry would take us in. And like we're very hardworking, strong people, and that really I loved hearing that because I have a very strong work ethic to me, and I really love that idea that like we are strong, we're united, and we're not going anywhere.
That's I think an important detail because I do know that I think right now with the information war, people can get sort of like a distorted picture of reality when they see, you know, Jewish people who seemingly take a very, very hostile stance towards
Yeah,
towards Israel, right? And we're acting like the way you said some of your friends are acting on October the 7th. But it's
yeah,
important to know that the vast, vast, vast majority of Jewish people you know, are united with each other in this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter how far left of a Jew you are or how far right of a Jew. When the shit goes down, they're
Yeah.
gonna judge r
Yeah.
really harshly.
Yeah, like there's some divides. I mean, there are, which is sad because I feel like we should be as a united front. But yeah, when something happens, like something with like when Elmo got hacked,
Oh
or
my God, that was horrible. That was so
oh,
bad.
that was so upsetting because I grew up with like the Hebrew version of Sesame Street, so it wasn't Sesame Street's fault, but it broke my heart being like, oh my God, like a poor Jewish child's gonna see this somewhere, and they love Elmo. That or like today is the yurt site, the 1 year yurt site for Hirsch and the other 5 hostages whose lives were taken way too soon by the
Oh
um,
man.
by the terrorists that were holding them captive. But like we're uniting today for that. So although yes, politically a lot of people are on very opposite ends of the spectrum, at least like not every Jewish person, like I said, because someone on October 7th very quickly turned against the Jewish community that I knew, but we stayed. But like the people who are in this, who really believe in that we need to keep supporting these people, making sure that the hostages come home, we're all at least agreeing on that.
So we're gonna wrap it up, but actually, I have a question to ask you, and it kind of leads off of what you just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it did not occur to me until just now, by the way. So if it sounds a
Yeah,
little incoherent, just bear with me.
you're good.
Around this time last year,
Yeah.
I went to the Nova exhibit that was here in Los Angeles. I think
Mm-hmm.
previous to being here in Los Angeles, they had it in New York.
Yeah.
Um, and when I went there, very, very powerful, tough exhibit to get through, by the way. But once I got towards the end, okay, they had sort of like the people who were manning the event and everything. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember like a person approached me. Her name was Eden, and we sort of got to talking a little bit. And she like I told her like off the bat like, oh hey, I'm not Israeli or Jewish. I just had to like come see for my own eyes because I was still sort of like coming out of like my former space, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And she said something to me that like to this day I'll think about every now and then. She was really like taken back that I had come because she said, you know, I've been begging my non-Jewish friends to come to this, and literally not a single one has come. And
Yep.
so for you being in the you know, essentially the Jewish capital of America, we'll call it
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
Um, w if you could give a message to non-Jews about what the Jewish community is feeling right now and what they can
Uh,
do to make you guys feel a little bit less lonely or a little bit more supported, what would you say?
um. Well, I guess can I tell like a quick story if that's okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, so when 9/11 happened, my dad, who's a graphic designer, he does like sign designs, or at least he did back then. He sold his business, but he did sign designs for a Muslim man that owned a pizza shop. And I remember being a little scared at first because, what happened 9/11 was very scary. And the first thing my dad made sure to tell me was he is not a bad person. They are not all like the people that did 9/11. He's a good person. And the guy said, no, 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 that's not what we believe at all. We don't believe in what happened. Like I'm not of that mindset. And that forever changed like my point of view of everything. And I made sure to always defend the Muslim community if anyone made a very Islamic phobic statement. And so I kind of bring that up to this is that you might be seeing things about the Jews that are bad and they're mostly not true. But if we can stay united with people and want peace with people that maybe don't always support us, then I think that should be the same for all humanity. And if you're going to speak up for one person or one community of people, we should be included in that. And that it would be really nice to have support from non-Jews because we can keep talking in our echo chambers, but really, it's the people who are not Jewish that really get through to others too.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that is the case too. But
Yeah, a
it's
lot of us
really
say stop
understandable.
asking for help because we're not getting it, but I still have hope for some humanity, and I have a lot of non-Jews that follow me, and I think at least, hopefully, at least you see one thing about passages that you wouldn't see normally.
I have to say, like, I had no idea how bad it was. I'll be honest, because I was on the other side of things, I would like hear the other side complain about things and be like, oh, they just love complaining. Like they just complain all the time, you know? But
We do complain. We do. We
for
catch a
sure,
lot.
for sure, but
But
no more than the average person on like the
no,
side I
and
used to be on.
you had mentioned about protesting if you heard about this play. Somehow we flew under the radar, and I do want to say, like you said, you didn't realize how bad things were. There were posters put up all over the city, so a lot of Jews heard about our show, or they wanted to see it, but they didn't have a chance to. And the poster literally was just a Jewish star with like kind of like a red slash through it that said October 7th, and that got torn down. It didn't say anything about Israel or anything about Gaza. It just was about just saying had a Jewish star with October 7th. Then that was it. Um, and so it's very, yeah, it's bad. And we're not, trust me, there's so many things in the world that I'd rather be talking about than having to, there's like people starving in Nigeria and Sudan
Hmm.
and people hurting all over the world. But yeah, trust us, if we're complaining, there's a reason why.
Yeah, yeah. Just to the people watching, like every single Jewish person I've ever talked to has made the point pretty emphatically clear. They wish they were not in this situation. They would rather be
Oh, I
doing
would
like
love
literally
that.
anything but this.
I would love to see a Broadway show or go into a theater bar like I used to hang out and not wonder who hates me right now as a person and who gives me dirty looks for wearing a Jewish star, which does happen. Like if I go into a space like that. I would love that
Hmm.
so much. Or I work with casting directors a lot, and I would love to feel safe when I wear a Jewish star where I work and feel not from casting, but like from some actors and think, wow, like I hope you don't hate me because of who I am.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Because I mean, I'll be honest, like maybe I felt that a little bit after 9/11, being, Arabic speaking Egyptian family and stuff. But
Yeah.
like I can safely say that like my community didn't experience a fraction of what the Jewish community is experiencing right now.
Yeah.
I mean, the Jewish community, I think, is still 6 times more likely to be attacked than any other demographic in
Oh
America.
yeah. Which is crazy. And people think that we're the most to blame. Again, we're the smallest minority, and I would love
Hmm.
non-Jews to remember that. We don't control. There's not a lot that we control. So, because if I could control the weather, it would not be so hot out right now.
I wish you did control the weather. I wish you did, Jenny. You could make some magic happen here.
I would love that. I would have been rained on yesterday if I controlled the weather.
Well, Jenny, thank you so much for being with me. I'm sorry it took so long for this to happen, but I'm glad we finally got to get it done. And for those, like, would you like to share your social media for those who want to find you?
Yeah, yeah. My Instagram is at jenny.anne.hochberg, and my TikTok is just jenny.anne.hochberg. I started posting on TikTok now too, so you can follow me
Perfect.
there.
All right,
Yeah,
I'll find you on TikTok too.
yeah. Thank you.
Anyway, Jenny, thank you so much for stopping by, and thank you to everybody who watched. This is us signing off. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.